seconds away on Studio 5.
They called Jesus the friend of sinners.
Pastor Rich Wilkerson is here with a new book and his take on his new life as a father. Plus,
so lay your hands on yourself and say this, it's my way to see.
Jekalyn Carr sits down with new music and a new book. And then, enjoy the sound of this sibling group of 7 in Studio 5, starting now. And welcome to Studio 5. We are sitting down with Pastor Rich Wilkerson and his book, Friend of Sinners, in just a moment. But first, let's get to the countdown of this week's top 5 headlines in the world of uplifting entertainment news. We begin with number 5. At number 5.
If we kick the church off campus now after what just happened?
Actor Ted McGinley follows up his God's Not Dead performance teaming up with Roma Downey in the scripted family drama The Baxters, now in production for Downey's Lightworkers Media platform.
We set out to encourage, engage, uplift, and unite through our work in film, TV, and now online. It's our belief that when the heart opens, all things are possible.
The 6 half-hour episode series is based on the book series by Karen Kingsbury and targeted for premiere late this year. At number 4.
There are a number of metrics by which you can establish the greatness which has been personified in Manny Pacquiao's nearly incredible boxing career.
And it's official. Christian boxer Manny Pacquiao returns to the ring this July 14th.
You can't handle your speed, son.
It's done! Manny Pacquiao has beaten Oscar De La Hoya.
The boxing star will challenge World Boxing Association welterweight champion Lucas Matisse in Kuala Lumpur.
This is the brilliance of the Filipino slugger.
And we'll pick up with the countdown with number 3 in just a bit. Pastor Rich Wilkerson is sometimes called Kanye's pastor, having performed the rapper's wedding ceremony. But of course, he is much more than that. He's a husband, a new father, a pastor, and an author whose latest book is called Friend of Sinners: Why Jesus Cares More About Relationship Than Perfection. And we're sitting down with him to talk about that and more in this week's Studio 5 interview.
Jesus is the friend of sinners. He came to seek and save the lost. I want my son to grow up knowing this love, knowing this Jesus. No matter what life brings his way, no matter what mistakes he makes or what trouble he endures, Jesus will be there. He's my friend. He's your friend. And his love will see us through.
So, you're a proud new dad. Can you share what that journey's been like for you and your wife?
It's honestly been the best journey ever. My wife and I have been married now for 11 years, and 8 years ago we found out that it was going to be pretty challenging for us to have kids, and so we began the journey of infertility and meeting with doctors and praying with friends. But after a long 8 years of waiting, God gave us our miracle son, Wyatt Wesley Wilkerson. It's just been a game changer. I think it gives you a lot of grace for your parents. I think there's been a newfound love in my heart for my mom and dad, just the idea that they cared for me in that regard and that they love me like that. I think it's a new love for my wife and I, going, let's build the home that we want him to grow up in. Let's build him a home that he loves the culture of it. Of course, that gives you a newfound love for God. It's been an incredible journey.
Now, this next question comes from a bit of personal jealousy. I follow you on social media, and I noticed that you are friends with one of my favorite singers of all time, Maxwell.
The only thing I want to throw is a fistful of tears.
Can you share a little bit about that friendship? Are you his pastor? What happened? How'd this develop?
I met Maxwell many years ago in Miami, and we just struck up a friendship. We've just kind of maintained being friends. He's a good dude, and we talk for sure about God and things of that nature, but he's just a fun guy, a very talented guy, one of the greatest singers of all time. And if you're married, you should have some Maxwell probably in your music playlist somewhere.
Now let's get to the book. Friend of Sinners. What inspired this?
This book, the reason why I wrote this book was because I think there's a lot of questions out there about people and God's heart towards people. And I think that we live in a world that it's very polarizing. I just still have this belief that if I can get people to sit down and have dinner together, we could solve a lot of problems. And so I think this book is a cry for us to hear the heart of God, that God is a God that's a relational God, that He came for friendship with all of us, that He is perfect, He is spotless, He is sinless, and yet He chose to come and associate Himself with us. I remember a couple of years ago, I took a photo with somebody who was famous and said congrats or something, I can't remember what it was, on Instagram, and just the outrage from people. How dare you take a photo, and how dare you be with this person? And I remember one in particular said, how can you associate with someone like that? And it's like such an easy reply, because Jesus chooses to associate Himself with me. Like, I am that guy next to Jesus, like, and all of us are.
So what message do you have for those critical Christians?
Well, I think that people have to have convictions and standards, and I think that you do need to be serious about your convictions and standards, and I think that's a beautiful thing. I just think we've got to be careful that when we project our convictions and standards upon people, and then I think it's silly for us to be upset with people we don't even know, that don't even believe like we believe. I think in this day and age right now, we just go, oh, like, if I see you from Instagram, that gives me an opportunity to tell you what you're doing right or wrong. I just don't think it's going to get anywhere. I think it's kind of just pointless, mindless chatter. And so for me, I think I would speak to any critical Christian out there just saying, what's your motive? What's your intention? What do you think you're accomplishing from what you're doing? And I think once you start to have a relationship with maybe some of these people, you start to see another side of them. And they need His grace just as much as I need grace. And if every part of my life was documented, if every mistake I ever made was put on the front cover of a magazine, you know what I mean? Maybe there might be some more stuff to say about me as well. I think that we've all got shortcomings. By the way, the compliments can be just as treacherous to a person as the criticism. When we're looking for value from people, it's going to be scary, because people are going to fail us.
So why does Jesus care more about relationship than perfection?
Jesus cares more about relationship than perfection, because none of us could ever on our best day be perfect. So He actually came to get into a relationship with us, that His perfection would get on our life, not because we've attained it or done anything, but because of His grace, His mercy. He came for the sick, which is all of us, but only those of us that will be saved are those that recognize that we're sick. Hey, I need a doctor. There's a lot of people today that live their life going, I'm good. That's in the church and outside the church. I'm good. And they're missing Jesus' message. No, you're not good. You have to recognize that you are imperfect, that you're far from perfect, that you are a sinner, and that sin hasn't made you bad. Sin, by definition, has rendered us dead. And what does Christ come for? He came to give us life, and life more abundantly. I'm imperfect, yet God in His grace came for me, befriended me, loved me while I was still a sinner, loved me when I didn't know His name, chose me, associated Himself with me, died for me. That's the whole point of the gospel, and I think we miss it. And so sin's not making me, it's not making me bad, it's making me dead. And people that are alive, they live on mission, they live full of joy, they live fully focused, they live grateful lives because they know all that they were saved from. They don't have time to judge and criticize people. They're so thankful for all that God did in their life, they want to share it.
And you can grab your copy of Friend of Sinners wherever books are available right now.
Still ahead, here on Studio 5. See why Jekalyn Carr is singing and writing about a winning season.
And welcome back to Studio 5. The countdown of the best headlines and uplifting entertainment news continues now. We have two more for you.
At number 3.
The Jacksonville State community is mourning the loss of a student there. Katie Beth Carter was killed in a car crash on Highway 278 Monday.
The life of a young girl who touched the lives of friends and strangers is the subject of a major motion picture, Kind Katie.
We're the first faith-based feature film to use what's called Regulation Crowdfund, which sounds an awful lot like every other crowdfund campaign, but it is distinctly different in that it is a SEC-regulated investment opportunity.
Filmmaker John Graham is looking for support, investors, to help him tell the powerful story of an ordinary girl who made an extraordinary impact.
For 17 months, we've been asking God to not let our pain be wasted and to give us beauty for ashes. And when we stepped off that bus onto this property and saw that school building, I mean, there was just this overwhelming sense of, I can't believe this is real.
Come on, every voice, lift it up.
At number 2.
Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God.
Corey Asbury's hit worship song Reckless Love has a fan in pop superstar Justin Bieber.
Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God.
He posted this Instagram story this week, singing an a cappella rendition while driving in his car with the caption, "God's love is reckless, and he loves you mad tons."
No wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me, yeah.
And there is now only one more remaining headline in this week's countdown. We'll get to that in the next few minutes. Right now, we want to share some music from a gospel recording artist with a sincere message about winning. Jekalyn Carr is what's playing in my ear. Sitting here with Jekalyn Carr, author.
Yeah.
Author. I remember when you posted you were going to write a book. Well, now the book is done.
Yes,
and the title of it is?
You Will Win.
That's your theme right now.
Yes, absolutely.
Tell me about the book. I know it's meant to inspire.
In this book, I wanted to give us information that we can apply to just about any situation in our lives and getting people to understand that you deserve to win in every area. I don't believe that we're supposed to win in one area and we're losing in the rest. And so I teach you how to win in your health, win in your finances, winning in business, winning in your dreams, teaching you how to not just settle with just being a dreamer, but to actually work on your dreams and bringing it to pass and not being moved by different challenges that we face on our winning journey, because we face them, but at the end of the day, you have to learn how to push and press beyond all of that, because when you think about the people who invented the radio, invented the refrigerator, invented all of these different things, if they had stopped, you know, based off their challenges, we wouldn't have the things that we have on today. So that lets you know that it does not matter what you face, you can press, you can push, because there's a winner in you. And when it's meant for you to be successful, it's going to happen.
You write about this, but you also sing about this.
Yes.
The single from your current album, it was at #1 five weeks on Billboard?
Yes, You Will Win.
Well,
yes,
it was #1 for
#1. Yes.
How did that feel? I know you've already had a #1,
yeah.
you know.
It feels amazing just to know that people are being, it just means that people are being impacted in a positive way. I remember saying that all I wanted to do was to inspire people and to give them hope, and being able to do that through my music, through my books, through my speaking, anything that I do, it just feels great. And so to hear that, it was just an amazing feeling.
People will hear this wisdom come from you. Where did that come from? How do you know about failing and winning? What happened in your life?
Well, definitely experiences on my journey, my family and I told people, because I have a song called Greater Is Coming, and actually it is our testimony. I experienced my shaking, beating, and the pressing very young, but and I understand why now. And then also having the right foundation. My parents, they taught me the right values, positive values that has helped me grow on today. And then I also learned by watching other people, you know, and knowing what to do, what not to do, and different things like that. And I think that helps a lot as well.
You're very young. You speak to a very young generation, of course.
Yes.
Watching what's unfolding in our world, especially among younger people,
How does that impact you?
I like to show people that you don't have to be 50 or 40 or 30 to blaze the trail. You can start out young. And so being able to spread that message and let young people know that you were born to be successful. Great is not something that you have to become. You are already great. All you have to do is tap into your gifts and tap into that which it is that you were created to do, so that you can be an inspiration to people all across the world. And now I get a lot of young people sharing their testimony of how my ministry has inspired them to become better.
One of the lessons I heard you share just this morning was stop, drop, and roll. What's that principle in your life?
It's actually in my book, and a lot of times, and it goes back to the challenges that I was speaking of, and we experienced fire. But in school, they taught us that in a fire drill, that when we do experience fire, to stop, drop, and roll. And so in our natural circumstances, when you experience different challenges and things working against you, because we will have that, but you have to learn how to stop, drop on your knees and pray, and you roll on. You keep moving on because you know that everything is taken care of. And again, if you were born to be successful, it's going to happen anyway.
Jekalyn's music project and her book are both available right now.
When Studio 5 continues.
Take care of you along the way. My love.
The sound of 7 siblings, the Hunts, are here to perform.
And welcome back to Studio 5. We have made it to the final headline in this week's countdown of the best headlines in uplifting entertainment news.
At number 1, a memorial honoring the victims of lynching in America opens up in Montgomery, Alabama.
The National Memorial for Peace and Justice, which was paid for through hundreds of private donations, will open to the public April 26. It contains 805 steel markers, one for each county where lynchings took place, and on each marker, the names. The markers are suspended to evoke the horror of being strung up and hanged from a tree.
Oprah Winfrey was the first to tour and share the museum for 60 minutes.
This is over 4,000 that have been documented, but of course there are more.
Thousands more.
Following the story, she reflects on its place in America.
Along this wall, all of these jars behind me represent the names. All the names represent a person. The person comes from a family that had to endure a lynching that took place here in the state of Alabama. So the truth of that and the reconciliation that can come from that has power not just for Alabama, but for the whole nation and the world.
And that wraps the countdown for this week and brings us to our next guest. The Hunts are a band made up of 7 brothers and sisters born and raised in the Southlands of Chesapeake, Virginia. Their sound is unmistakable and their hearts unforgettable. That's why the Hunts are this week's Studio 5 One to Watch.
Where did the Hunts that we know as a group, where'd you guys begin? What happened?
Yeah, it's a fun story. My parents were both musicians, kind of in 2 different worlds. My mom's a classical violinist and my dad is just self-trained electric rock guitarist. And so we grew up with that as kids, just these 2 worlds, you know, swirling together. And I think that really formed a love for all kinds of music.
And there's 7 of you.
Yeah, 7
Twin
brothers
sisters
and sisters.
and
Yeah.
five brothers.
Yeah, 5 guys.
All right. How would you describe your sound? You're talking about your mom being classically trained, your dad into rock music.
Take care of you along the way. My love, one day the time will leave our troubles behind.
I think the classical influence really comes through in all the strings that we have, the violins, the mandolins, banjos, and then my dad's influence, I think, with the drums and the bass, getting that like low end and that thumping, exciting beat kind of blends together for an original sound. So we call it alternative folk, whatever that might mean.
Now, this is the latest project, The Hunt's Darlin' Oh Darlin'. I have fallen in love with just the photograph here on the cover. Who are these people?
These are our grandparents, Grandma and Grandpa Hunt. And one night I had my grandma over for dinner and told her to bring a photo album. And so she came and just kind of told us stories of family history, and that one really caught my eye. I just fell in love with it. That was the house that he built for her in Newport News. They were newly married. She's actually pregnant with our dad in the picture. And so it just really struck me, and she let me have it, and I just wanted to use it for something special. And as we were writing the album, and the message of the album kept coming up, like commitment to relationships, and I just felt like it connected so well with their inspiring story to us and their fierce commitment to each other.
What typically drives the lyrics that you guys write? Is it your life story? What's in it?
Whatever anybody's going through in this time period, like if you look back at our recent projects, it's a lot about, I guess, being kids and imagining, just imaginations running wild, sort of. And so this is, in a lot of ways, the next step, like relationships and commitment.
Yeah, and walking through some things as a family and really making that decision to recommit to each other no matter what. It's special to see now that the songs are written and them affecting other people to just inspire that commitment to family and to relationships. No matter what words are said or what goes down, that we're all a gift to each other, and we're just gonna keep loving, keep forgiving, keep enduring.
And keep creating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Troubles behind.
And The Hunt's new music is available right now.
Up next, here in Studio 5, singer and pastor Travis Green steps in with a message to change your heart.
And we are almost out of time for this episode of Studio 5, so here's a look at what we're working on for you for next week.
I need you. All over the world say, I need you.
Gospel music, The Shower share a real-life story of beauty for ashes. We're in Louisiana with all members of the Showers family.
That is just one story from next week's show. It is time to wrap, though, for this week's edition of Studio 5, and we're giving the final word to pastor and recording artist Travis Green.
You know, I believe culture is all around us, of course. It's the rhythm of a generation. It's the clothes we wear. It's the arts that we enjoy. It's the the music that we listen to. It's everything around us. And I believe there's only 3 responses you can have to culture. 1, you can conform and just kind of become what's going on. 2, you can complain. I feel like a lot of believers have become professional at that. Or 3, you can confront and engage in the culture, move upstream, you know, in media like yourself, move upstream to be the change in fashion, to be the change in education, in politics, in police. And so that's really what we're pushing, this agenda we're pushing for not just our generation, but the entire world, and especially believers to engage in the culture around us, so that we don't just have to march and shout for change, but that we can become the change and make our voices relevant enough that when we speak, people listen.
And with that great word, we wrap this edition of Studio 5. Until next time, be sure to connect with Studio 5 on Facebook and Instagram. We have exclusive content you won't see anywhere else. You can also reach out and touch me at Ephraim Graham on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat. And we'd love for you to come on back and see where Studio 5 takes you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.